And it's another episode of the Church Solutions podcast. I think this is episode 314. Steve Lacy gets on my case because I never know the episodes, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 314. Welcome to the Church Solutions podcast, folks. We are so glad you're here. And speaking of Steve Lacy, my friend and associate, is not here today, but he'll be with us next week. So you got me, plus we have a guest today. And I do want to say before we start that this Church Solutions podcast is brought to you by My Church Daily, mychurchdaily.com. You can look it up later, but this is a product that actually we have put together that allows you to be on Amazon Echo devices, Alexa devices. You can do flash briefings. You can do it every day. You can upload some short audio, 3 or 4 minutes long, and do a flash briefing, maybe a little longer. And we've set that up for churches to do and help churches connect more with their people on a regular basis. There's millions of people now using the Alexa devices, the Amazon Echo devices. And so check it out. There's a free trial. Just go to mychurchdaily.com. All righty. So now that I got the business out of the way, my guest today is an American film actor and television host. I've known him for a long time. He's an active producer and casting director. I'll have to ask him why he has failed to cast me in any of these roles, but we'll get to that later. He's also known for his recurring role in the award-winning series The Chosen, and he's also had appearances with Ted Danson and Holly Hunter on NBC's Mr. Mayor, and he will soon appear. This bio may be a little dated, but he will soon appear as one of the leads in the upcoming Western called The Righteous 12. We'll get to that in a moment. He's also hosted over 100 TV episodes for primetime Christian broadcasting, and that's seen on cable television networks and markets in the U.S. as well as satellite. And this is something, Steve, I didn't know. I didn't know that you have experience with firearms, and you're a retired martial arts instructor. I didn't know that.
Well, see there? Always something new to learn about an old friend.
And a certified scuba diver and licensed motorcycle driver. Do you do your own stunts now in movies? I mean, what's the deal with that?
Well, I'm too old. I'm too brittle.
I can relate to that. Well, folks, please welcome Steve Shermett to the Church Solutions podcast. Steve, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to see you, Phil.
It's good to see you. We go back a long ways. I think back when I was with KVOI, KGMS, years before that. And I can't believe we haven't had you on before, but you are actually I guess I would say a semi-retired pastor, because you were here in Tucson as pastoring a Messianic Jewish church. Did I get that right? Messianic Jewish? And you did that for how many years?
I was the lead rabbi at Beth Sar Shalom for about 27 years. Okay. In ministry in Tucson for the better part of 30 years, because I also led Book of Life Community Church.
That's right. Yeah. And I know that very well. So Steve, it is good to have you here. And I thought it would be interesting today to have you on because you're still doing maybe some ministry. Is that right? You're doing some ministry. You're now based out of New Mexico. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the movie business and the TV business, because I know that I knew you were kind of involved in doing some stuff here in Tucson, but you transitioned out of being the rabbi into being on television and movies. When did that happen, and how did that happen?
Well, a little background. Before I got into ministry, I was actually a stage actor. I did the acting, the singing, the dancing, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
So professionally speaking, that was my first love. And I did step away from that for many years. But towards the end of my tenure there in Tucson, I took a sabbatical, and I took a class on screen acting because I'd never done screen acting before. And I wanted to see I might be interested, if I still enjoyed acting, if I was any good at it. And I got the bug back, man. So that was in 2005, 20. We're 21 now. 2015, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard. I get tripped up on all that too. I can't believe it when people say they were born in 2007. I'm like, what? You're born in 2000? That's fake.
Are you even old enough to say that?
I know, right? It's crazy. So you got the bug back. Let let me back up the tape a little bit though. So you grew up, doing some of this, acting. Why did you get away from it? And the most common thing I hear from people who are waiting tables in Los Angeles or whatever is, couldn't get a job, couldn't get a job to support themselves, I guess.
It's nice to eat too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, you were in it for a little bit when you were young. What got you out of it and got you into ministry?
That was a part of it, wanting to get into a solid career, as it were, to live a normal life and raise a family, that sort of thing. Yeah. But also there was, I found that the theater world was a bit challenging to my faith. There's a lot going on in the shadows that I wasn't comfortable with. And as a new believer, it was a wiser move for me to step away.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So you got involved in ministry, and as you mentioned a few minutes ago, Messianic, and then you took the sabbatical. When you took the sabbatical back in 2015, were you planning to go back into ministry, or you just said, I'm taking a sabbatical, which I think everybody should take. I think anybody that's been in ministry, I was in ministry for, well over 4 decades, and I really never took a sabbatical, at least for a year. And I'm not even sure if you took one for a year, but I just, looking back on it, I wish I would have done. I wish I would have taken advice. But anyhow, getting back to my question for you. So when you took the sabbatical, did you just lay it out there and go, we'll see what God says? Or did you think, I'll be back in 6 months or a year? Was this quite a turn for you? Were you surprised that you?
It was a shorter sabbatical.
Okay.
I think it was a 1 month. I'm not.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah, it was a small sabbatical. 1 month, 3 months. I don't remember which, but it was 1 to 3 months. And yeah, the intention was to rest up and come back in swinging. But after the sabbatical, I was still like, no, I'm not ready. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore.
Okay. All right.
I tried to rest up, but I needed more than that.
Yeah.
So I needed to step away.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, and I think more pastors, and we have pastors listening to this and people involved. And I think that's probably, you would probably advise, right? Looking back, hey, when you have an opportunity to take a sabbatical, take it. Would you say that's true?
I would say if you don't have an opportunity, make one. And if you can't make one, go somewhere else.
There you go.
Because if you burn out, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you got the bug back to get into acting.
Yeah.
What happened next? Because I know in Tucson, there's some opportunities, not as much as there were maybe 30 years ago, but there were some opportunities to do some acting here. How did you get back into it?
Well, I did a lot of reading to find out what it took to work as a screen actor, and assembled my resume and my demo reel and my headshot, submitted myself to representation to some of the agencies up in Phoenix. And I did hear back from one of them. So I got an agent pretty quickly, which was cool. And then I started looking for opportunities through networking, Facebook, things like that. I also started the Tucson Actors Network.
Okay.
I wanted to build up a community of people to rehearse together and just to, work the industry together.
Okay.
And it wasn't too long after that I learned that Chuck Williams was coming back to town to make the feature film Amazed by You. And I connected with him, ended up helping him produce the film and became one of the actors in the film. And just opportunity after opportunity, you hunt it down, you dig it up, you audition, and you get a role.
And look, no offense, but you're no spring chicken. Isn't it really difficult for people your age? sound like you're like 102, but isn't it difficult, to work in that business when you have some gray hairs, or is that just a misnomer?
Well, yes and no. It's difficult making any major transition in life at this age. But if you're in the midst of one, hey, now's the time to do it, right?
Okay. How old are you, by the way?
I'm there.
He's not going to tell us. All right. That's fine. I'll Google it.
I play roles in my 50s. How's that?
Okay. All right. Good. So that's fine. So so far, what has been the biggest thing for you so far? The biggest, role, I guess, or opportunity that you've been able to take?
I guess it'd be a toss-up between the small recurring co-star role I have in The Chosen, which, by the way, just recently hit over 300 million views on the app.
Wow.
Right?
What is The Chosen? Tell us what The Chosen is.
It's a television series about the life of Christ from the perspective of people who met him.
Okay.
So yes, Jesus is one of the stars of the show, but so are the disciples and people you wouldn't expect to be stars of the shows, like Nicodemus, some of the Pharisees. And it's a serial about the lives of these people as it follows some of the story of the Bible. There's a lot of backstory and drama that's just made up, and then it intersects with actual biblical story.
Okay, so there's a little bit of liberty, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me guess. What do you play? A rabbi?
You got it.
How did I guess that? Awesome. So how can people see The Chosen? I mean, I know I've heard of it, and honestly, I have not watched it. But how do I see it? Where can I watch it at?
I guarantee you, brother, you watch this, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to binge it. And number two, you're going to invite me back because you're going to want to talk about it.
All right. That sounds good. So is it a Netflix deal or what? How do I get it?
The number one way to see it is simply download their app.
Okay.
There's a free app. And if you download the app, then you can cast it to your television and watch it that way, or just watch it on your phone or iPad or whatever.
Okay.
It's on several platforms. It's on Peacock. It's on PureFlix. It's on, I think, Vudu and Christians. I don't know. There's several of them. I'm not sure what they all are.
Vudu's the Christian one, right? Oh, no,
I know. I don't
kidding.
think Vudu's because the word.
I'm just being funny. All right. That's the radio thing. All right. Well, okay. That's interesting. So The Chosen. All right. I will definitely check it out. I'll definitely do that. Yeah.
I'm in episodes 4 and 8 of season 1.
Okay. All right. Good. And then I happen to see you on a TV series called Mr. Mayor. And that stars, of course, the famous Ted Danson and Holly Hunter. I was surprised Holly Hunter was in that. And you were in it as a rabbi. and
just to break it up a little, in The Righteous 12, which is coming out at the end of January,
okay.
I play a gunslinging cowboy. So I can do more than just be a rabbi.
All right. Do you perform marriages? Do you perform marriages in that movie, The Righteous?
No, but I do because I am a religious cowboy.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. So, Mr. Mayor, and is that being renewed on NBC? Okay.
Yeah.
And you were in it as a rabbi. And how did you get that part? And I was really, I knew you were in it because I actually follow you on Facebook. Don't tell anybody that. But and you had mentioned that you were going to be in it. I thought, this will be interesting. We'll get to see, Steve just get a headshot or something. But you actually had some lines in that movie. You were in it, or TV, I should say, and you were in it in several shots. How did that whole thing develop? How did you get on that?
Well, the way it happens in the industry, your agent is constantly getting what's called breakdowns from casting director offices. That, hey, we need this person who fits, it might say something like somebody who's in their 40s and 50s to play an Orthodox rabbi. This is the date it's going to film. This is what the contract is it's under. This is the network it's playing on. And here's the audition side. She would respond to the casting director with a headshot and my resume and my reel and say, hey, would you like to take a look at Steve to audition? They would then respond to the talent agent, yes, we want to see his audition. And then she would send me the breakdown and say, you need to send in your tape by such and such a time. Here's your lines. I memorize the lines. I find another actor to read the other part for me. And I videotape it. And then I email it off. And then I wait to see if I booked it and maybe get a call back.
So you didn't actually have to go to Los Angeles to Hollywood to do this. You actually taped it and sent them the tape, the file.
Exactly. That's how almost all auditions are done nowadays.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
didn't know that. Wow, that's interesting. Well, it saves a little bit of gas. So they got your tape, or whatever you want to call it. I guess it's not a tape, but they got your file, your video, and they said, "Yeah, we'll go with this guy."
Yeah.
And then so they contact you, or your agent contacts you probably
Mhm.
and says, "You got the gig, pay me."
Exactly.
And then you fly out there. And then how many days were you there filming?
The filming itself was one day,
Okay.
but I had to get there a day early for a COVID test and
Yeah.
for wardrobe.
Yeah.
So the day before was the COVID test and wardrobe. Then there was another day where I just had to wait, I think, for that COVID test to come through. So that was a 24 to 48 hour window.
Yeah.
The next day we filmed. The next day I flew home.
And with wardrobe, I mean, you already had it, right? You should have said, "I'll just bring what I have here. I'll bring my working clothes."
Well, when you're working with NBC, you don't need to do that.
That's right. It's NBC. So, wow. So that's fascinating. Now, have you been in situations, and I'm going to get off track here a little bit, but where you memorize your lines, and then it's action, and you forget your lines? Have you ever had that happen? What happens when you do that?
A lot of it's stress, adrenaline, and embarrassment.
Yeah.
And then you just do it again.
Okay.
There's always somebody on set. You can just say, "Oh, what's my line?" or line.
Yeah. Right. I've seen some of that.
Remind you.
So, can you improvise a little bit? Can you? Do they allow you to ad lib at all, or no? You can't.
It depends. From program to program, set to set. Television is usually no.
Mm-hmm.
Movies, film is usually a yes.
Right.
And there's some flexibility in both of those.
Yeah, I've heard about that on movies, but okay. So interesting. So, how was your interaction? I mean, anything interesting when you were, filming the Mr. Mayor? I mean, did you enjoy the time? Was it all you thought it was going to be, or disappointed?
Oh, it's fabulous. I was just like, how can I do more of this? I love this. This is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm meant to do. And I can't wait to do it again. That's how I felt.
Great. Good. Well, good. Well, maybe you'll get an opportunity again. Who knows, right?
Yeah, maybe they'll bring the Rabbi back, or
they might.
And I'm always auditioning for something, so you never know what's going to happen.
Well, you might get a show, what do they call that? A spin-off show or something?
Oh, the LA Rabbi. How cool would that be?
Wouldn't that be cool? That's a great idea. So look, if you develop that, make sure I get a little bit of credit for that. Okay. Maybe you could cast me in it, since you're a casting director.
Bring you in on it, huh?
I mean, look at me. I mean, I could certainly play some kind of a character, probably an evil guy, right? Probably a bad guy.
My first thought looking at you would be a hippie guru.
Oh, thanks a lot. Okay. All right. Well, I'll take it. If it buys me lunch, I'll take it.
Right.
All right. So we've got some time here. The Righteous 12, that is coming out, you said, in January. It's a movie.
Yeah, the premiere is in Tucson, January 29th. I will be back in Tucson for the premiere at the Elcon Mall at the theaters there. Which theaters are those? Century 21, I think.
I think so. I'm not a big movie guy. My wife could tell you. So that's coming. That's coming here now. Was most of that filmed here in Tucson?
Most of it was filmed in the greater Tucson area, within 2 hours of Tucson.
Okay. All right. So outside the Tucson area.
Yeah. I mean, we did film a couple of days at Old Tucson Studios.
Okay.
We filmed at a place near the airport called Harker's Creek. It's a Old West museum.
Okay.
And then off towards Benson, and then way out west at a place called Keylock Ranch. Okay. And Gammon's Gulch was the place out by Benson. And then in between Gammon's Gulch and Tucson, there's the Mescal set, which Old Tucson Studio owns, where part of Tombstone was shot, and several other Westerns we filmed there as well.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. How long did that all take? I mean, I'm sure it took months, right? Or longer?
Most of the photography was done in a month.
Really? That's pretty quick. Wow. That's pretty quick. Awesome. All right. And your role in this one coming up is a cowboy. Are you an outlaw? I can't remember. You said
no.
The Righteous 12. What are you?
I'm actually a righteous cowboy, to use the word.
Okay.
That attaches himself to an outlaw band and tries to bring them the gospel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a Christian movie.
It is a faith-based film. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The reason I hesitate in answering that is because it's not a Christian movie in the traditional sense.
It's not evangelical.
The storyline isn't the gospel. The storyline isn't biblically based. The storyline isn't preaching a sermon. It's about a bunch of desperados going to get vengeance with a spiritual twist.
Ah, okay. The Righteous 12. So that's coming out in January. And here in Tucson, Arizona, it will be the premiere. And then I assume it will be in other places around the country.
Yeah. And let me throw this out there. There's 2 showings on the 29th, 7 o'clock and 9 p.m. The 7 o'clock is sold out. At least half the tickets are gone for 9 p.m. So if anybody wants to get to the premiere, AvondalePictures.com, AvondalePictures.com, and then they can order their tickets and see the show first thing.
But since I know you and we're such good friends, you'll get me tickets, right?
I couldn't even get me tickets.
All right. All right. Hey, let me ask you something a little more on a serious note. And this has to do with kind of the current events. The Alec Baldwin movie, it's called Rust.
Yeah.
Right. And the terrible tragedy of the shooting that happened there. Since you've got a little bit of familiarity with this, plus you also have experience with firearms, which again I didn't know. I would have been nicer to you in the past had I known that. But with that happening, I mean, are you up to date on that? I mean, you probably just watched the news on it. I mean, is that something live ammo, which is not supposed to be on the set, right? And for those people that.
There never should be live ammo anywhere near the set and anywhere near those guns.
Yeah. And in case people don't know, I mean, I think everybody would know, but Alec Baldwin is a movie he's involved with called Rust. And it's a Western. And, he has a prop gun. I mean, it's a real gun, but it's supposed to have blanks in it. And he ends up, unfortunately and tragically, shooting the cinematographer. I can't get, is that the right word? Cinematographer. Okay. But he ends up shooting her, obviously accidental. And she dies. And the director, I think, was also wounded. So what's your take on that? What do you think? I mean, just your take on that whole thing. I mean, my goodness, it's just.
I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how it could have happened without having been there myself.
Right.
Just reading some of the news reports. Right. But as you mentioned, and as I affirmed, there should not have been any live ammo on that set. Furthermore, there should have been an armorer or a prop master who checked the weapon before handing it to the actor himself, and properly should have handed the weapon to the actor, showing the actor what was in it. And that would assume the actor knows a blank from a real live round anyway. And I don't know if Alec Baldwin would or not, but obviously all those things failed. There was live ammo on this set. Obviously the prop master didn't check it because there it was. And then obviously Alec Baldwin didn't see it or didn't know, tail from bottom for if there was live round in it.
Go ahead.
And then I was going to say, the other thing is it's not always possible, but it's always advisable, and it depends on how it's being directed. But like when I was in the Righteous 12, there were times when I had to point my gun at crew members.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
And so what I did is I made sure that I raised my weapon, lowered my weapon, or moved it between crew members, even if they were 10, 15, 20 yards away. And I was shooting blanks, because it's just good gun safety never to point a gun at somebody. And even blanks can be dangerous.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention that. I mean, there's people, I think, was it Bruce Lee that was killed by a blank, I think?
I think it was his son.
His son was killed. You're right. Yeah. I mean, so even blanks are dangerous.
Yeah, they have concussive force. They're little bombs going off, as it were.
Right. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I used to do a lot of shooting and a lot of reloading too, and I would experiment with my reloads to do things, and so I have a little bit of an understanding too about that. But yeah, just a tragedy there on that whole deal. So I was going to ask you, you've had experience obviously firing firing pistols on movie sets, especially with the Righteous 12. And so you just described how you do it. There's the controversy is not just the fact that the armorer should have checked it all, and then whoever the next step was, but also some people say, well, the actor should also be aware of what's going on and should know. Do you subscribe to that? I mean, you just mentioned Alec Baldwin should have maybe looked at it. Is that protocol that actors themselves, when they get the weapon, or even it's a prop, should know, or should know how to
I'm not experienced enough to know if it's protocol, but it certainly should be.
Yeah.
The prop master or the armorer should have a session with anybody on set, especially the actors who are going to handle firearms, give them firearm safety and show them what a safe gun looks like and what a unsafe gun looks like, and how to use it. Not to point it at anybody you don't intend to shoot, not to put your finger on the trigger till you're ready to shoot it.
Right.
Explanation as to the dangers of a blank, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And I think in Alec Baldwin's case, I mean, I think the script called for him to be pointing the gun at the camera. And I've seen shots like that before, in movies where they zoom in and they've got somebody pointing and pulling the trigger. So I think in his situation, he was just doing what the script called for.
Right. I don't necessarily fault him.
Yeah.
There are ways of doing that, though, without somebody standing in front of the camera.
Okay.
And,
Wow, really sad. All right. Well, I know that they're still investigating all that. All right. So we're just about out of time here, but your involvement now as an actor, what would you say to somebody listening to this podcast or watching us who has a desire to maybe get involved in acting and get involved in some kind of, what would you tell them as advice you would give them?
If they really want to get involved, I would encourage them to read up on what's involved. Go to backstage.com, read some articles, and then connect with some local independent filmmakers, students at the local university making their film classes, take some classes at the local community college level, and audition or volunteer to do some background work so you can begin to get familiar with what set life is like, and then start talking, asking questions, and hone your craft.
Okay.
But it's not for the faint of heart. It's if you want to do it professionally and you want to do it regularly, it's hard hustle.
Yeah. I bet it is. I mean, you have to really stay on top of things. People aren't going to come looking for you unless you're
exactly
a big name actor. Exactly. And even at that, you worked hard to get to that point. I remember I was watching an old Star Trek movie recently. The one, I can't remember. It was the one where they were getting the whales or something. I don't know if you're a Star Trek person, but they said, do you remember? That was a good movie. And, but there was actually an extra on the set that she ended up getting a speaking part because she just said something. She was just an extra and she ad-libbed and the director loved it so much that they used it, but they had to get her in. They had to get her signed up for the Actors Guild and all that stuff. I thought that was interesting. I don't think she ever did anything after that, but they just liked her spontaneous, her spontaneity, I guess is the word for it. And so interesting. Wow. Yeah. So Steve, I mean, can people reach out to you? Is there a way people could, if they had questions for you about acting? I mean, is there some way they could, reach out to you? How could they do that?
First and foremost, just to check into my career and follow along, IMDb is a good place. Look me up on IMDb. My name is Steve Shermett, and see what I'm doing, what's coming down the pike, or my own website, steveshermett.com.
Oh, okay.
That's another place to go. And people can message me on steveshermett.com, but I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram.
All right.
So people message me there or reach out to me there. I'll respond.
Yeah, I think, not sure I see you on Instagram, but I think you blocked me on Facebook, but that's another story. Steve Shermett has been our guest today on the Church Solutions podcast. Steve, it's been a pleasure. I'm really excited for you and very happy for you.
Thanks, Phil, man. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is good. I'm glad to hear that. And so again, we'll plug the Righteous 12. coming out here in Tucson. We have people listening and watching this all over the place, but the Righteous 12 debuting in Tucson in the end of January. What were the dates again, Steve? I didn't know
January
that.
29th is the premiere.
Okay.
And then it should be moving around the country after that.
Okay. The Righteous 12. All right. Good deal. And then also, as we were talking about earlier, The Chosen. You can download the app to watch The Chosen series, and you could find it on those other platforms that we mentioned earlier here in the podcast. So good deal. I'm definitely going to do that. I'll turn my wife onto that as well. I think she'll like that a lot. So
yeah, I look forward to hearing from you afterwards.
You know what? Well, yeah, absolutely. We'll have you back on again. I mean, we certainly will. I don't know why we never did before, but it's probably my personal issues or something. So Steve,
I blocked you on Facebook.
well, that's probably had something to do with it. All right. Well, Steve, again, thank you so much.
Ciao, Phil.
All right. And folks, thank you for spending some time with us today on the Church Solutions podcast. We do all sorts of things here with streaming video and mobile apps and websites, and then, of course, mychurchdaily.com. Look that up. But if we can help you in any way, your church, your ministry, that's what we're all about. We got a great team here that will do that. Steve Lacy's not here today, so we will bid everybody farewell on behalf of Steve. And folks, take care of yourselves. Have yourself a great day, and we'll catch you next time on another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.